Rarely does the land receive the sea with such sincerity, at times embracing it gently as if in a welcoming gesture, at other times resisting ungraciously, defining limits. Man also discovered early this immense power, and inhabiting this margin, endowed it with a soul. Europe begins here, where the land plunges into the sea, where a bay becomes a village, where history becomes destiny. Welcome to the Estoril coast, a destination with history. Its history is the history of people who settled in these margins of immense sea in a time before time existed. The Romans called it Cascale. The Arabs settled in the area. The typical windmills began to characterize the landscape. Its growing importance to the Kingdom of Portugal led King Pedro I to raise its status from village to villa in 1364 and call it the guardian of my land. Powerful neighbors on one side and the sea on the other. The need for international recognition, the desire to spread the Christian faith, the urge to reach by sea the trade already in the hands of others. Several reasons, and never only one, caused Portugal to follow the call of the sea, to launch herself upon the waves with the horizon as her destiny. And Cascais, at sea and on its shores, witnessed all the departures and all the arrivals. It transformed its port into a base for coastal patrol vessels and fortified itself to defend the capital. But the Portuguese discoveries were also a meeting of cultures in all the continents, from Africa to India, from the Americas to China and Japan. It would have been the fishermen of Cascais who, during the great discoveries, navigated the first pilot boats over the sandbanks of the River Tagus at the entrances and exits from Lisbon. Already by the 19th century, Cascais was to sparkle again, when in 1870 King Luis chose to spend October and November here as a late summer retreat. And with the king came the court, the nobility and high society. There was bridge played in the citadel and sailing in the bay, and there were promenades in the street, on foot and on horseback. Later, King Carlos would carry on the same tradition. The season had been created, the summer architecture of the elite, quality tourism. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Companhia do Monte do Estoril had already become the meeting point for the Portuguese aristocracy and upper class, and already some foreign visitors. Estoril was still only a pinewood by the sea. In 1908, Lisbon witnessed the assassination of King Carlos, which hastened the advent of a republic. The republic was proclaimed on the 5th of October 1910. In 1914, the passion for the future and the enterprising spirit of men such as Fausto Figueiredo and Augusto Carrera de Souza, allied to the technical and aesthetic ability of the French architect Martinet, gave birth to an Estoril with an urban design that even after 100 years continues to be one of the most innovative in Portugal. Estoril had become a quality destination. Luxury hotels and broad palm-lined avenues were built. The golf course, tennis courts, shops in the arcades selling elegant objects, the park, grand houses, broad streets. Estoril gained unparalleled international publicity. In 1930, a new Sud Express rail service linking Paris to Tamaris was announced. Paris to Estoril by train without changing, a dream that became reality. Like other European developments during the first half of the 20th century, Portugal saw the birth of a nationalistic regime which was called the Estado Novo, the new state. The excellence of the urban planning of the Estoril coast did not escape the notice of the new political regime. It represented the image of a modern Portugal in line with the image the regime had of itself. Beyond the holiday destination of quality, now came the promotion of grand events. The coastal road, the Marginal, was built. The Grand Hotel Palacio. The railway line was electrified. Then the Casino of Estoril was inaugurated, which until today would maintain the spirit of the Fausto Figueiredo project, proving that dreams really do come true. At the same time, the whole of Europe had been caught up in war. Officially, Portugal was neutral. During the Second World War, Portugal became the meeting point for thousands of people fleeing from the horrors of war. The Estoril coast was the refuge of aristocrats and businessmen exiled from their countries at war. And here they recreated their suspended paradises, bringing to all the region the glamour that had previously sparkled in the center of Europe. The first monarch to arrive was Juan de Borbón y Battenberg, the Count of Barcelona and father of Don Juan Carlos. It was a happy childhood, that which the present King of Spain lived in Estoril. When he was nominated Citizen of Honor of Cascais in 2000, it's with a smile that he acknowledges his old friends who still call him Juanito. So many memories, so much affection. So much so that when the Count of Barcelona died in April '93, Portugal declared a day of national mourning. Many sovereigns found in Estoril their new home. The Archduke Joseph von Habsburg-Lothringen of Hungary would come to say, "Estoril has become for me and my family our spiritual home." And the last monarch of Italy, King Umberto II, son of Victor Emmanuel III, wrote, "I love Estoril, its sun, its waters. Portugal is the country that took me in its arms, and I can never forget this." At the same time, Estoril hosted numerous agents working on behalf of their governments, a hive of spying and information networks. Estoril was unquestionably the center of the world, and to such an extent that many were inspired to create reality and fantasy here. The well-known writer Ian Fleming, for example, who after coming to live here, wrote his first novel, Casino Royale. So it was in Estoril where the character of James Bond, the famous secret agent 007, was born. The post-war years and the ideas of peace and progress felt all over Europe confirmed the Estoril coast as the future that everyone was yearning for. In the 1970s and 80s, first with the arrival of democracy and then with the entry of Portugal into the European community, the Estoril coast reaffirmed its path of innovation and modernity, remaining the destination for those who seek quality. And if at the beginning of the 20th century someone already believed in Estoril, today Estoril asserts itself more and more through the quality of its projects, embracing the future it builds each day. The infrastructures of progress have been and continue to be created. The Casino of Estoril affirms itself as a cultural and economic reference. The hotels respond successfully to an increasingly demanding clientele. Opportunities to meet with business multiply because the economy speaks with society. Many believe that only quality will stand the test of time. And this is because what is important are people. The Estoril coast, for the conditions offered, its proximity to the great metropolis of Lisbon, and a world heritage of excellence, offering its inhabitants and visitors opportunities of leisure, of pleasure, of the simple things in life. It is because of this that Estoril attracts more visitors with each passing year, and more prestigious companies locate here. More residents know that the future also has a home. Maintaining its pioneering tradition in Portugal, The Estoril coast is proud of its role in the daily lives of the Portuguese through the organisation of grand events of international dimensions. Adventure sports, motorsports, water sports maintaining the centuries-old tradition of sailing in the Bay of Cascais, of colouring the wind and waves at the beach at Guincho. But also golf, tennis, horse riding, culture, holidays and international meetings, fashion. Today, the Estoril coast is evolving with a vision for the future. A destination of dreams, sketching out and charting its future. In its gardens, in its houses, in the faces of its inhabitants. Welcome to the Estoril coast, a destination with history.